Welcome to PlanStronger TV. I'm your host, David Holland. On today's program, I'm joined by Daytona Beach, Florida attorney Paul Rice to discuss selecting and hiring an attorney to represent you if you need to get divorced. I'll also answer Diane's viewer questions about stock and bond investing. Ready? Let's roll. Welcome back to the program, ladies and gentlemen. Very important topic, divorce. And within the area of divorce, one of the things, of course, that people have to deal with and face up to is hiring an attorney. So we're very fortunate to bring Paul Rice into the studio. Paul, welcome.
Thank you, Dave. It's great to be here.
All right, I know it was a long trek all the way from your Daytona office to come to our studio in Daytona Beach.
All of 10 minutes.
Yes, well, we'll give you some hazard pay for that. But so your firm, Rice Law, you guys have been in the area for
over 30 years.
Wow, that's a long time.
I know. I don't look that old, do I?
No, not at all. You don't look a day over. We'll come back to that question.
70,
so
80.
yeah, so let's get to the heart of what we want to talk about.
All right.
So I appreciate your taking the time, because for a lot of people, they don't know what is involved with divorce. And I know that this is what you do every day. I know your firm has other practice together, but in the work that you do, you've specialized. You're board certified in divorce.
Correct.
And this is your specialty. So in doing this work, people come to you, they interview you, they talk to you about maybe hiring you to help them with their divorce. The subject of how to pay for it and what's involved and what does the process look like, those are things I think for somebody out there who is considering the possibility of getting divorced, or maybe they're in the middle of it and they're not sure that it's getting done right or that they're paying a fair price. I'd love for you to be able to share with us about some of those issues.
Certainly. And it's funny you mentioned that, because I've written blog articles about all of these topics, because there are things that people should know before they engage an attorney. You know, for example, do you want to try to find a lawyer that gives you a free consultation? Right? Well, most people, yeah, I'd rather get the free consultation than pay for a consultation. But be careful there. If a lawyer is giving his time away for free, there probably isn't much demand for that lawyer's time. And if there's not much demand for their time, that means people don't use that lawyer for
Draw your
some
own
reason.
conclusions.
Sure,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So my first admonition to prospective clients would be, be careful with that free consultation deal. Okay, the good lawyers in our area, as in most areas, do pay some type of consultation fee. Okay, because a lawyer can't just sit there and give away his time and advice,
right,
as Abraham Lincoln said, which is our stock and trade, all day long.
Sure.
But at any rate, so the question is if you're thinking about getting a divorce, or your spouse has served you with a divorce, how do I find a lawyer?
Right, that's the first step.
Yeah,
Before we even talk about how to pay them, how do you find a good attorney?
Yeah, and how do I know who's a good lawyer? Who's the best lawyer in our area? And I always say, there's no actually the best lawyer. There's a bunch of lawyers. I say a bunch. There's a few names. What happens is I recommend to people, ask around, first of all. Maybe go to the courthouse and ask the bailiffs, or the deputies there. Certainly ask your confidants, family, friends, fellow church members, and ask around. You'll start hearing the same few names over and over again. Typically, I would think. And so then you go and you research, okay, the internet. Statistically, about 90% of all people use the internet at some point in time during their search for a lawyer. Because what you want to do, even before you determine which lawyer to use, you want to research what you're up against.
Yeah, sure.
For example, we're here in Florida, but the laws are different. Every different state has their own divorce laws. So I'm talking about divorce law in Florida, but go on, educate yourself. Find out what you're up against. Find out, if alimony is the issue, or custody, those types of things. And then start looking for reviews. You can go on you can go on websites. You can go on there's law directories, law firm directories, and start seeing what kind of reviews the lawyer has. Now, don't be overly don't put too much weight in reviews, because I know of law firms out there that have like paid their employees to get their friends to write reviews.
Nice.
$20 for everybody who writes a review. So so don't put too much weight on that. Look at what type of credentials a lawyer has. Like, for example, you said at the outset, I'm board certified in divorce and family law. In Florida, only 6% of all lawyers are actually board certified. Why is that? Because it's hard to become board certified.
Yeah, it's more work.
You have to have so many trials. You have to have so many. Of course, the easy part is the education. The other thing is you have to pass an examination, a very large examination, very similar to the bar exam. But so find out what kind of credentials they have. Are they? Do they have any leadership positions in any legal organizations, such that, for example, I was president of the local bar exam, the Bar Association, and I have been, and for like 15 or 17 years now, I'm chair of the family law section for the local bar.
How long have they been doing this, right?
How long have they been doing this? How many years they've been doing
it?
Exactly.
I mean, it's okay for somebody to get their experience and learn as they go, but you just need to evaluate whether you want them handling what you need, which might be more complicated than they're prepared for.
And so check out their website. Does the attorney handle a lot of different areas of law, or do they specialize in an area? And then finally, when you've narrowed it down, maybe narrowed down to 2 or 3 or 4, go interview that lawyer. And it may cost you to interview the lawyer, but that's okay. You're about to embark on something that's very important and has very serious ramifications for the rest of your life.
It's not something you do every day.
No.
I mean, it's a big deal, and for most people that get divorced or are faced with this situation, hopefully it's the only time they ever have to do it.
Yeah.
And you want to do it well.
But
and
I get a lot of repeat customers, so I can't agree it's the only time. But you're right. It's a huge decision.
Yeah.
And more likely than not, it should be probably the only time you'll ever have to do it.
But the outcome or the ramifications is the word I'm looking for. The ramifications are enormous.
Enormous, and you don't get a do-over.
Right.
So, for example, you have a leaky roof, and you get some bids from roofers, and you hire the low-bid roofer. Dave, what do you end up usually after you hire the low-bid roofer? A leaky roof. All right? Yeah. Well, okay, so you made a bad decision. You want the low-cost roofer. Now you can go hire a good roofer, pay more money, and get it done right.
Yep.
In our business, if you get a bad lawyer and it results in a bad outcome, and that is the final judgment of dissolution of marriage, you can't change that final judgment. And you can't come back and fix it and go just get a more expensive lawyer to try to do it again. Final means final. So it's very important that you get the right attorney. And when you do go interview some attorneys, interview a few and see which one you connect with. Yeah. Which one speaks your language.
Well, that's going to be important for that, because you're going to be in the trenches with this attorney for what could be months or years to get this sorted out.
I've had cases. I've had clients for 7 or 10 years. The divorce, like a divorce case is like a phoenix rising from the ashes, because then there's post-judgment issues. But I will explain to my clients, hey, we're going to be a team. Yeah. It's teamwork. You've got the facts. I've got the law. I can't handle this case without you, and vice versa. So we're going to be working together as a team.
Well, I think you've hit a real key one. You've got to be, and I say this about people picking financial planners, so it's very similar, Paul, as you better like them, you better trust them, and you better believe they know what they're doing. If you don't have any of those three, it's going to fall apart.
It's called confidence. If you don't have confidence in your professional, then you're going to question everything he or she recommends.
How important is their ability to serve, not just in terms of that connection with you as a person, but also where they work, their office? And, if I were going to hire an attorney for divorce or otherwise, I would go to their office and get there a little early and watch what's going on.
Exactly. So when you go to their office, when you go to the attorney's office, or even, let's step back. When you call a lawyer's office, is the assistant who answers the phone helpful, courteous, pleasant? Do they seem put out? If you call the lawyer's office and the secretary, if he or she seems too busy to take your call, no thank you. Go somewhere else. So, and go to the office. Is the office clean? Is it presentable? Like you said, you go a little bit early and you see what's going on in the office, you can get a pretty good feel for things, you know. Because you know, I always jokingly say, if you go to a restaurant and the dining room is dirty, what's that say about the kitchen?
What's Yogi Berra say? You can see a lot just by observing. So just see what's going on. How about when we talk about an attorney, should people be focused in on, you talked about the personality and the ability to work together. Does gender matter for the attorney if it's a woman or a man hiring? How much should that matter, or is that really a personal?
That's a personal choice. It's very interesting you say, because, you know, sometimes, you know, whether, believe it or not, whether it's a wife or a husband, as a man or a woman, they have certain ideas as to whether they need a man or a woman. Sometimes, believe it or not, a woman, a wife, you know, a female client, wants a female attorney, and then all of a sudden decides, no, she needs a man, or vice versa. So, you know, when it comes to going to court, it doesn't really matter a whole lot. But, you know, I think it's more to do with the individual client's personality.
Okay.
Okay. Some men want a female woman because they want someone who can be tough with their wife.
Or humanize them.
Yeah, or dehumanize them.
No, true.
Because, you know, a lot of times we do teamwork, and, you know, if you know that you're going to be cross-examining a wife, a female, we have to be careful now because we have, you know, gay marriage in Florida.
Yeah, sure.
So it's maybe two husbands, maybe two wives.
Whatever it is.
So let's say it's a female you're going to be cross-examining. Some people want a female to cross-examine another female, or a male to cross-examine another male, just from a dynamic standpoint. But generally speaking, you know, we're not to the point, but we're going to get to the point where there's going to be an equal number of female and male lawyers. Doesn't matter to me. You know, people goes, do you represent primarily wives or husbands? Whoever comes in and hires me. Doesn't matter to me.
Whoever comes in and says they want me to do the work.
Yeah.
Right. Well, on that point, the other thing you talked about, reviews and different ways of evaluating, obviously personality. How much stock should somebody, because I always caution people about this, how much stock should somebody put into word of mouth? In other words, you know, somebody says, hey, this person's really good, you should go, you know, hire them. I tell people, whatever it is, use that referral maybe as a way to screen and go meet them, but don't just hire them based on that referral.
That's just one criteria.
Yeah.
Word of mouth is good. I get a lot of business word of mouth. In fact, I don't take any cases that come in sort of cold call. Okay, because I have enough business of people who come and ask for me. But I have other lawyers working for me who handle the cold call cases. But anyways, yeah, just getting one word of mouth is not a good idea. Okay.
I mean, it might be a reason to interview by somebody, but it doesn't mean you should necessarily hire them just on that.
You should corroborate that. Again, go on the internet, see what kind of credentials the lawyer has. You know, really, if it's that important to you, you can go to the local courthouse and ask around about that lawyer.
Yeah.
You know, and like I said, don't put too much weight in reviews. And the reason I say that, interestingly enough, my practice, most of my clients are over 50. Okay, well, we're in Florida. We've got a lot of retirees. Okay, and so so most of my clients are over 50. Older people don't write reviews. I know my personality is, you know, if I go to a restaurant, it's great. I don't get right on my phone and review it. My kids might.
Right.
But
yeah, I don't see you doing that.
So like, I don't have 50 reviews because my clients are 60 and 70 years old and they don't do reviews.
Right.
Kids do reviews, young people.
Funny.
I mean, maybe some people, some older people do, but think about it. Do you do a lot of reviews?
No.
You know? So I don't have a ton of reviews. I'm not paying anybody to do them like some of these other shysters, no offense. But, and my clients they're over 50. They don't do reviews.
All right, another big topic on the concept of hiring an attorney. Paying for it, okay? It's not just about hiring their attorney. There are going to be other costs depending on the complexity of the situation.
Correct.
But for a lot of people, they have a lot of anxiety about that part of it. They don't have access to money. They don't know how to pay. So first, if they're going to hire an attorney, should there be an agreement, or should it just be based on how the person bills them?
Definitely has to be an agreement. Okay, and attorneys in divorce cases, they can't do them on a contingency fee or a percentage basis. It has to be, they pay by the hour.
Okay.
And the best thing a lawyer can do is be candid and completely explain the process of how much this case may cost. The last thing I'm gonna do is like, my retainer is $5,000, and that's a cost deposit, and I work against that at my hourly rate. But the last thing I want to do is leave the client, let them leave my office with a perception that the whole divorce is going to cost $5,000.
Right.
You explain to them what the costs are. Now, you also explain to them what drives the cost. My client drives it, or my client's spouse, or the two spouses arguing. So your client will know why the case is costing money because they're the ones driving it. But you have to explain to them that, well, we may need to get an appraisal on the marital home to see what it's worth, okay? We may need to get a vocational expert to see how much your stay-at-home husband or stay-at-home wife is capable of earning, given their education and background. But so that's key to explain to them. And then, so anyway, so if the client does hire me, we have a retainer agreement that lays out what the hourly rate is, what the retainer is, and explain how it's used, and then the lawyer should give out timely monthly statements itemizing the time and everything. So the best thing a lawyer can do is be very upfront and explain to the client this could be very expensive depending on the outcome.
Well, you lay all that out, and then there are going to be things that are obviously within the client's control and your control in terms of how the case proceeds. But I imagine sometimes, Paul, you run into situations where, and this will be unfortunately a reality that we have to acknowledge, that there are going to be times when the other side might draw it out.
Let me tell you, just a super quick war story. I had a client, the case had been dragged, it had been over a year, and the primary issue was alimony. And the wife was demanding, I represent the husband, she was demanding $5,000 a month. And he's like, no way, I can't afford to pay. I'm not going to pay that, not going to pay that. So the case goes on, we get set for trial. Of course, you get set for trial, another 6 months waiting for the trial to start. And he comes in, he's like, this is ridiculous. We've got to be done with this case. I said, well, that would be easy. How would it be easy? He can agree to pay her $5,000 a month. Or can't do that. Well, then what do you want me to do?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so basically, the clients are in control of what it costs. Well, not both of them, but like you said, so there's a lot of things that are outside of our control. If a husband or wife wants to underpay on alimony, or if someone is expecting too much, that can drag out the litigation. So the client does have the ability to cut it off if they want to overpay.
Yeah. That's usually where you end up with some of that give and take negotiation, really. And you talked about mediation being a venue. Nobody wins everything they want, but they can be done if they're willing to accept certain things.
So I tell my clients, the law, especially in divorce and family law, is designed to achieve a fair result.
Not necessarily a happy result.
No, just a fair result. And so what I mean by that is, the law is not designed for someone to hit a home run and someone to strike out.
Yeah.
If both parties each hit a double, then that's a good result.
Then you're done.
Exactly.
All right.
So the key is to temper people's expectations and try to get them to be reasonable and compromise, and they'll be happier in the long run.
All right. Well, that's divorce, and that's how you pay for an attorney, and that's what's involved. So, Paul Rice, ladies and gentlemen, our guest today to talk about divorce. Thanks for being with us, Paul.
Thank you, David. It's a pleasure.
Good. Today's viewer question comes from Diane in Palm Coast, Florida. Diana's been saving up and sent me a bunch of questions all at once about stocks and bonds. I'll go ahead and list and comment on each one. Here we go. Question number one. The equities market has been strong, but is it sustained by foreign investors due to a weakening value of the dollar? I would say, Diane, that it's very difficult to determine how much of the stock market's growth at any particular time is due to just one factor. Question number two. Will rising rates by the Fed impact this market? And what about political events from the UK or the European Central Bank? The Federal Reserve is the central bank of the United States. For over 100 years, our Congress has given the Federal Reserve broad authority to maintain a stable financial system. Two of the big items on the Federal Reserve's to-do list is keeping unemployment and inflation low. This can be a difficult balancing act. Generally speaking, the Federal Reserve, or simply the Fed, will lower banking interest rates to stimulate the economy and increase the number of jobs. The balancing act comes into play because as the economy gets stronger and the overall unemployment rate falls, the cost of goods and services tends to rise, and that's what we call inflation. Inflation, if it starts to climb too quickly or goes too high, the Fed will step in and try to cool off the economy by raising rates to slow it down. Interest rate increases by the Fed could lead to stock market volatility and/or a stock market drop. But that's not automatic, and it's hard to predict. The same is true for political changes and banking policy changes in Europe. It's very difficult to predict how markets will react to interest rate or political changes abroad. The stock market tends to react to uncertainty. When there's less uncertainty and more business growth, the stock market can respond favorably. But when we see political tumult or large changes in interest rates or a lot of investors going to cash, the stock market could certainly go down. Question number 3. Stock prices are high and rising. Is a correction coming soon? What would that consist of? High and low are relative terms. Stock market corrections of 10% or more have occurred on average about 12 months for the last 100 years. They're not unusual. I don't think they should be a reason for panic. However, investors should be careful putting money in the stock market that they might need in the near future. It's hard to predict when corrections will occur. The stock market will fall at some point. It might come rapidly, or it might slide over a 6-month period. It could be caused by a world event, poor earnings from publicly traded companies, an unexpected or large change in unemployment or inflation, an unexpected large policy change by the Fed, or something else. You should hear a theme running through these examples. Large and unexpected changes. These are the things that can cause stock market corrections. Question number 4. Is the energy segment expected to rebound? When? Does solar power and electric auto solutions pose a permanent threat to this area? Here we go. The energy sector in our economy will rebound in 2 weeks, 4 hours, and 16 minutes from now. I'm just kidding. I really don't know. The movements of a particular stock or sector of our economy are just as hard, if not harder, to predict than the direction of the overall stock market. There are many factors that may affect the energy sector. New energy extraction technologies, disruptions in the demand due to alternative fuel consumption by autos and other machinery, increases in the overall demand for energy, geopolitical risks, as well as the ever-changing currency exchange rates. When you put all these things together, and I'm sure there's more that I haven't mentioned, it's hard to say what will happen. Question number 5, bonds. When would it be advisable to get into this sector? Now, before prices escalate? Bonds are a type of security. They are a form of debt typically issued by a company or a governmental entity. They are not a sector. Economic sectors include healthcare, financial services, technology, and energy. Bond prices are affected by many factors, just like stocks. When interest rates go up, existing bonds tend to go down in value. Bond prices might go up if there's a big spike in demand for them due to investors pulling out of stocks. Also, stocks and bonds tend to move somewhat independently of each other, which is why you might see both of them in a balanced portfolio. However, there are times when both stocks and bonds will go down. Excellent questions, Diane. I thank you for them. And don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, you can email me your questions and I'll answer them. Thanks for watching. One more thing before you go. It's a big world we live in, but it gets smaller every day. Things get complicated. There's constant innovation. There's all kinds of things going on. It always seems like there's political change. There's always some kind of stress. Step back. Think about what you're really trying to accomplish with your financial situation, what you want to do for the future, where you're trying to go. Look at the options available to you. It's difficult to predict how the different things out there will impact you. So you have to be mindful of your goal all the way through the process and consider options. And usually it makes the most sense to be diversified and not making a large bet on something happening, because you know what? almost always it seems like it's going to act differently this time than it did last time. And if you do that, you know what I'm going to say? You'll plan stronger. Thanks for being with me.
If you would like more information about the topics and our guests featured in this series, please visit our website at PlanStrongerTV.com. Also, if you have a question you would like David to answer, please send it to questions@PlanStrongerTV.com.